Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain over the next few slides here with some screenshots that back up all the critical indicators of APN spoofing going on in Peterborough, Havelock, Cordova, and surrounding areas. So basically, these critical indicators are something that are found in most cases in terms of APN spoofing. So the first one is a silent APN change, where the network access point in the menu setting shows a profile not provided by the carrier. That one is present. We're going to get to that slide here shortly. It's consistent with most of them. And the MNC MCC mismatch. The APN setting shows the mobile network code that does not match the SIM card's home network. That's also present. The next one here, proxy configuration, it was an important detail that I kind of missed at the time of the investigation because I didn't know it actually was a critical indicator of APN spoofing at the time. So I did not actually document it, but it was present. And I found it through a third party app. So the network identity and time zone data fluctuates or resets, indicating clock sync issues between the rogue tower and the internet. That's happened a few times, but I didn't really get it documented. But I'm going to move on to the next slide here. And the next slide here is showing in Cordova Mines, you'll see the site similar location, and it gives you the actual coordinates here, and that's in proximity of my house. So I live probably like about 600 feet from this. And in the next one here, you get an overview, and this one shows the legitimate Roger towers with the G2 G3 cells that were at it, and that's the source of the system downgrade. So as you can see here, there's a point to point on each side of the tower. So any communications that are heading for legit towers or for the Rogers towers are getting intercepted through the site simulators on both sides of these towers. They're pretty much in a straight line. And the interesting thing about this was if you mark it out on Google Earth and you can draw pretty much a straight line going straight from here to 20 Oak Street Hilltop to the radio refractor in Peterborough, and just a little bit away from the Rogers Tower with the G2 equipment. The owner, Evan Myers, has a house where he has a small network access APN on his building that I actually installed when I was working for him. He told me it was a cell booster, but it didn't really look like that to me. It was something that he could configure for himself, which I believe it had to do with software defined radio. So that's one thing to keep in mind at 126 via Route 14, that a smaller device is likely in operation. And this is just the coordinates here to the second one over on Preston Road, which is also likely a site cell simulator owned by the same people. And I provide pictures of this later on, but these are just the overall coordinates, and basically just showing you that they pretty much line up in a straight line. So over here on this next one, as you can see that the network operator, the MCN code, does not line up with Nationwide. I'll get to the fact checking at the end of this video here, but this particular one definitely should only, like when I look under network operators with Freedom, I should definitely only see Nationwide, Nationwide, Nationwide as their roaming partners, which is encompassing Rogers, Telus, and Bell. And I came to that determination by talking to customer service several times to try to rectify this situation with slow speeds and security of my device. So we could just move on to the next slide here. When I went to the kiosk for Freedom Mobile in Lansdowne Mall in Peterborough is where I first discovered that the APNs were being spoofed, because when Mobile was acquired by Freedom Mobile in 2016. And through research, I determined that these APN settings should not be present in 2025 with a SIM card that was created by Freedom Mobile. They just do not. They rebranded it in 2016, and they just do not use Win Mobile. So this is a clear indication, which is consistent with the longevity of how long these guys have been hacking people using internet. So I would say that proceeding going back to 2016 would be an accurate measure of duration, but it was likely longer. But just as far as Win Mobile being present on a modern day device should not be happening. I had to go in and change these settings manually, but I did keep the SIM card that was populated because they populate it right at Win Mobile, which would indicate that there is a hack through cross-site forgery at the kiosk itself that generated these APNs that went onto my device. The other thing of interest is they do through the actual internet. If I was to log on to my actual account, then populate a SIM card that way or generate an eSIM. They spoof the eSIM. So I thought I was on a legitimate Freedom Mobile website, populated a new eSIM, and it actually configured the network to use their APNs for their tower. So that's how far these guys are going to create this condition. And here is just a quick picture of no networks found, period, when they block the communication and signal for all cellular communications in the area. When I'm going to call law enforcement or try to get a hold of Spectrum management, or if I have an important call with a lawyer to do with a lawsuit, this tends to happen where all communications are dropped, which indicates that they're blocking communications on a widespread basis. And here you can see another operator. This particular one is Rogers Communication Wireless, and that should not be showing up. So that's what those codes represent and translate into, is Rogers Network. So I'm going to move to the next slide here, and you can see that not only did they spoof the network operator, they're now associating it with other things here. So we got Nationwide, which is the only thing I should see when I look at my network operators because I'm with Freedom. And if I'm in an area where Freedom actually has a tower and I'm not using a roaming partner, it would say Freedom and then show a series of Nationwide 3 other times. And this one here is once again now Rogers using the actual MNC code, and the other one is Explore. So Explore LTE, G5, G4 internet in this area is getting spoofed, and they're under the same risk as any cellular signal or communication coming into Cordova. So here right now is what you're seeing is once again, it should only have 3 network operators for Freedom, which is the same thing. It's umbrellaed in terms of their roaming partners. So it would just be Bell, Telus, and Rogers. But what you're seeing here is a service downgrade listing G3. And in this area, the infrastructure is quite good. In Cordova Mines, there's two Rogers G5 towers in this area. So there's no real reason to be downgraded to G3 or G2 at some points. I was being downgraded to G2 until I turned off the setting on this particular device. And that's just to downgrade encryption. But we'll move on to the next slide here. This is basically just showing the same forensic that it's getting a downgrade, and that's showing extra APNs that shouldn't be there. And here was my tablet getting pushed over onto the Rogers wireless network when it should not register on there. And this is one of the critical indicators where the actual banner that displays your operator gets changed out. That is one of the critical indicators. And these are the network operators that are in Peterborough. So we got ones for Freedom, which is what I was stating earlier, and then Nationwide 3 times. T-Mobile doesn't have any native APNs in Canada, and it would just go under a roaming partner. And the same thing with the other one here, 312190 is Sprint, which is also another US provider, which shouldn't show up. And Cogeco shouldn't show up either. So it shows that they're really targeting every single operator like Bell and Telus and Rogers, and even ones from the States, to trick people's phones into connecting to their rogue base stations and their site cell simulators. So the next one here just shows dropping of mobile network not available. And this was a call that I was trying to make. And this happened when they felt threatened because they monitor and listen in and watch what I'm doing, and they felt threatened by me calling this number. So they dropped all networks, and there was nothing available at the time. So these ones are just kind of fact checking the information in this video. As a Freedom Mobile customer, you should not see Cogeco as a network operator in your phone settings. So it basically gives you just the gist of this here, but that was the main focus of this slide. And the same thing here, no, you should not see 312190, the network operator for Freedom. It's for Sprint and the US. So that should not be seen on a phone. And the other one here, no, you should not see T-Mobile as your network operator in Peterborough, Ontario. So this is just summing up that these are forensics and fact checking for these particular artifacts here. And this one's just stating, in general, you should only expect to see Freedom or Nationwide as network indicator in your settings status bar. So for me to see Rogers proves that I was being forced onto the Rogers network, is why this is a privacy concern for people like this to actually even have access to Rogers equipment. And people that are hacking and invading privacy should not be allowed to do business with Rogers. So I'm going to go over here back to the critical indicators and just show you that it does check most of the boxes in terms of what critical indicators are found when APN spoofing is going on. So I'm just going to end the video there, and hopefully that gives you some information and some insight, and helps you with what you need to figure out to enforce action.